Kathy's right. I live just on the Red River of the north. It flows north, and there was a data center that is currently being constructed just 20 miles south of where I live. And of all people, I did not know that this data center was even being planned or constructed until the building was actually up. And Kathy's right. Our citizens, our town workers, our county workers are having to sign NDAs for these projects. Is that right? No, that is not right. And if they're non-disclosure agreements, which means that they have to not say anything about the plans being made, about these data centers being brought up, which means that they are hiding the fact that they're building these data centers in our backyards. And if they have to hide the fact that they're building these projects, we know for a fact that they are bad news. And so our next speaker, Aubree with the Stop the Pine Island data center, is our next speaker. And she's going to speak on exactly what I'm talking about. These data centers going up in our backyards without us, the citizens, the ones who are being affected, even being asked. So let's give her a round of welcome.
I wanted to print my speech, but the printer wouldn't work. I blame Google.
The only time he runs, guys.
Thanks again, everyone who's joining us. We are live. Go ahead and follow, share, like.
It's okay. Never underestimate the capacity and the propensity of the local government to make poor decisions. That's the number one lesson that I have learned from these last 10 months. It's also how I started my speech at City Council this month. Wearing this shirt, you can't see it, it says, "I identify as a problem." At the City Council meeting, they had also on the agenda had a restriction to limit public input during council meetings. And just like all the prior data center approvals, it was unanimously approved, despite First Amendment violations and a clear attempt at silencing comments about the data center on the grounds that it had already had public hearings, even though we've continued to learn new information about this project through news articles after all the project approvals and public hearings are well over. Information that should have actually been on the table from the get-go and was conveniently left out. The unwavering dunderheadedness that cannot, for the life of them, grasp how punitive decisions and continued dismissal of their residents will not, in fact, make things better, is the hallmark of Pine Island and other frontline communities' city councils. But when local government fails, it's the residents that bear the brunt of the impact. That impact is what is continuously not being listened to, and why we are getting louder and harder to ignore. The impact is being in your 50s, making a promise to your own child that this is the last move. You were moved over 35 times, and you hated feeling like you never had a home. You can't bear to have your own child know that feeling. After 8 years of finally feeling home, setting up a business on Main Street even, that sense of home, of safety, is ripped out from under you. The impact is living in the same town for over 60 years, putting in significant financial investment to do the upgrades in your home so that you can age in place, not have to move out, and you can die in the only home that you want, that you've known. Only to have the city dump a data center blocks away. Even if you could move, you can't afford anything on the market, and nothing that's out there is going to have the upgrades that you just spent significant financial investment putting into it. Noise is the most concerning impact that you're worried about. Older adults like you are the most vulnerable, but that's a state-level regulation. And the state has done nothing about that, in addition to all the other regulations that they didn't pass. The impact is the months of sleep that I haven't been getting as the resident activist, the teenager in my house balancing feeling proud of their mother and also feeling like, why do they have to be the sacrifice? Why can't they just have their mom back? The impact gets even more compounded when we as residents are then also the ones having to do the cleanup. Cleanup of watersheds that once were clean but are now contaminated, wells that once we could drink from but are now dry, PFAS contamination that results in the lives of our classmates taken from us during high school. Too young. We only have one Earth. There's been a collective shift and an uprising occurring saying that we're tired of dying so that others can profit. There is another way. I keep hearing from local government officials talking about how they want just the facts. Let's leave out all the emotion. But I've got news for you. You can't take the emotion out of this decision. If that is your expectation, resign now. The decisions that you are making are responsible for humans, not robots. And they have life-altering consequences. You need to sit with the discomfort and the weight of the decisions that you are making. Your responsibility is to lean in, not away. The failure of the state to listen to those of us on the front lines and act has resulted in three judicial decisions recently that back up that those of us on the front lines have been right this entire time. What's happening in Pine Island also shows how great the need is for central permitting. The injunction that we received was granted on May 22nd. Now, in theory, that should have paused the project, but Google, Ryan Companies, and the City of Pine Island and Xcel Energy split the project up into smaller pieces and spread it out across different regulatory bodies so that it wouldn't look like this massive data center project, and it wouldn't trigger any of those pesky environmental reviews that would shut it down potentially from the get-go, and make Google do this thing called real accountability. And in the event of an injunction, it wouldn't actually stop the project as a whole. Project Skyway was approved by the city in January of 2026. So they were careful to point out that they were only approving one data center building, and it was 300,000 square feet. Those three potential future buildings on the drawing board, nothing to worry about. They're just potential. They might not happen in probably office buildings. In March, it was followed by an environmental review for a new wastewater treatment facility and a wastewater permit, which are two separate public comments and environmental reviews, by the way. Also conveniently timed for Google to slip in and orchestrate the water numbers that they needed for the data center project through the Project Skyway approvals that had been happening, and the development agreement approved in January requiring the City of Pine Island to advocate for Google while hiding the water usage under the disguise of municipal water and a municipal wastewater treatment facility. Then came the PUC dockets for two massive 765 transmission lines that go for the Badger and Power On Midwest that also had 345 kV lines, all connecting now to Pine Island substation. Then came the PUC dockets on those three potential future buildings that they told us not to worry about. They were actually three more Google data centers. And that docket also contained the electric service agreement, the rate that Google will pay for Xcel, but that's all trade secret. Along with the energy usage of those additional 3 data centers, it also contained the backup generators of those data centers and the world's largest battery that we learned about through the news articles. And if you haven't yet looked at that, if you look at that list of who received notices on that docket, you're going to see Polymet Mining listed. So if you have yet to make that connection between the boundary waters and data centers, you have to look no further than docket 26170. Now, why would Pine Island's docket in southeastern Minnesota have Polymet Mining, which is in the boundary waters, listed on it? Then came the injunction in May. It paused that one 300 square foot data center building approved back in January. But everything else keeps going. You following that? Then came the PUC docket for the Project Skyway substations and the transmission lines, an entire docket just for the data center. They need to double the size of Pine Island's existing substation and add another short 345 kilovolt transmission line with 4 smaller substations, because each of those 4 data center buildings needs its own individual substation. And I had to get Google's attorney to go on the record at the PUC open house on June 15th to actually admit that there are 4 data center buildings for phase 1 of Project Skyway, because everyone was still insisting that there was only 1 data center building of 300,000 square feet. But there's 4. And all of this project is taking place on prime crop farmland, which is state protected, and it's going to permanently remove it from the equation, but the state isn't doing anything. And they now announced the Mankato to Mississippi 345 kilovolt transmission line, also connecting at Pine Island substation, just this week. So, for those of you that are counting, that's now 7 environmental reviews and PUC dockets, all connected to Pine Island's data center, that all have permanent, life-altering impacts, like contaminating the potential drinking water source, the Zumbro River of Rochester, the state's 3rd largest city. They all require public commenting, and they're all happening in the same 90 to 120 day window. Each of them has hundreds, if not over 1,000 pages. And who do you think it is that is right there trying to figure them all out to prevent the harm from happening? Governor Walz, I'm tired. We're tired. And we're angry. And you're not going to get politeness anymore. Take your fingers out of your ears, get your private equity and big tech bills out of your pocket, and get your signature on that moratorium now, because enough is enough.
Let's give Aubree another round of applause. She is really the truth to how corrupt these corporations are, how we do not need to be having these data centers come through.